A further reason for the anticipation that Belfast would be attacked was the pattern of Luftwaffe bombing. Its focus increasingly on particularly the western ports. In March 1941, Glasgow was bombed, Liverpool was bombed, Bristol was bombed. In mid-March, Clydeside, and it was on the 9th of March that McDermott famously advised Andrews that the period of the next full moon from, say, the 7th to the 16th of April may well bring our return. That anticipation or expectation was widely shared in Belfast by ministers and officials. And McDermott was by no means his own on making that presumption. The ordinary citizen, however, in Belfast still was psychologically unprepared or didn't expect an air raid. And there's a reason for that, which is evident from the Ministry of Information files. The Ministry of Information, which was monitoring morale throughout the United Kingdom, at the local office in Belfast. And they commented on the impact of censorship, particularly of the press, and the consequence of the operation of censorship. And the public generally had no knowledge of the scale and frequency of the Luftwaffe mining of the Belfast block, of the attacks on shipping, or indeed of the activities in the Atlantic, where 3 Allied ships were being lost daily through July to December to U-boats, many of them within the sight of the Irish coast. An example, the Ministry of Information report dated July 1940 commended a report in the Belfast newsletter, which had described an attack on a Luftwaffe attack on a convoy in Bangor Bay, and commented that this report had increased interest in the war. The report had been dramatic, graphic, cited eyewitness accounts. 2 weeks later, the paper, 2 days later, after pressure clearly from the censor's office, published a retraction, stating that the article had been the subject of 2 authoritative statements in London, and there was no truth whatsoever in the report. The dockside raid was the first attack on Belfast. Night of July, 7th to 8th April 1941. I just want to go through now a brief summary of the raids. It was a massive attack on Britain, much bigger than Easter Tuesday or the 4th, 5th May attack, as far as Britain overall was concerned. 500 bombers, just 8 attacked Belfast. It's not clear from the German records, which alone could disclose the reasons for the raid, it's not clear from them why the small raid occurred on Belfast. Details of 2 of the German aircraft which participated are known about, and they give conflicting impressions. One was a Henkel from Camp Group or Squadron 26, and it described very briefly its involvement in this attack. It was one of the Pathfinder squadrons, elite. Their skill was to identify targets, set them ablaze, and then this would guide subsequent bombers that would be guided by the fires which were already lit. The fact that they participated in the raid suggests that it wasn't just a random attack, but pre-planned. They delivered a 500 kilogram bomb, 400 odd incendiaries. Most of the attack, there were some incendiary bombs fell on East Belfast. Most of the attack was directed toward the docks, hence the name's dockside raid. The 12 civilians who died in the dock area. The worst fire was in Creedlix, Crew Street, and neighbouring premises. And the most devastating incidents occurred in the dock area. The most devastating incidents occurred at the end of the raid at 3:30, what Blake refers to as the last tantalising bomber inflicted the worst incidents. And we know the details of this aircraft. The pilot was Siegfried Rothke. He was identified and interviewed by Trevor Allen. He'd been instructed to attack Dumbarton, the shipyards. Cutty Stark was built there. But it was so cloudy he couldn't identify the targets there. So he diverted over Glasgow, still cloudy. So then he saw it over to the west, he flew over Glasgow, but the west was clear, and decided to go to Belfast and delivered his 2 parachute mines. One of them struck Parliament Wolf. One of them struck Parliament Wolf, the fuselage factory, 4.5 acre site, and that was the bomb which caused most of the casualties. The parachute mine came down, workers, night shift workers, just leaving their shelters, saw the mine broke downwards, thought someone had bailed out, surged toward it, and the casualties resulted. The other struck Mike's flour mill. After the dockside raid, it was reasonable to expect that the Luftwaffe would return. Lord Foch promised Easter eggs for Belfast. The Luftwaffe were continuing to attack the western ports in the days which followed. The operations record book for the Squadron 968, which was the squadron which operated the barrage balloons, reported sightings of enemy aircraft on the nights of the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th of April, aircraft over Belfast. Little could be done to strengthen the Belfast defences. Some searchlights were brought in into Belfast on the 10th of April, and on the 14th a smoke screen was put up to operate over the square bounded docks area. The War Office was sceptical about the effectiveness of smoke screens, but they thought at least they were good for morale. One Dars commented that her neighbour thought it was poison gas the first night, so it wasn't visibly beneficial for morale. But local firms were also encouraged to emit smoke. That's the ropeworks, for example, from the factory chimneys. The major raid, really, the first major raid, was Easter Tuesday, the 14th, 15th of April. Major, classified as major, any raid with over 100 tons of high explosives dropped was classified as major both in Germany and in the UK. 330-odd bombers attacked from their base in northern France and Holland. They left their base there, and Belfast was their main target. From Luftwaffe records, approximately 200 tons were dropped of high explosives, 30,000 incendiaries by approximately 180 bombers. This photograph shows green casting. Halfway through the raid, 2 parachute mines fell around gardens, 45 people were killed, 130 houses were destroyed. But the area which suffered most was the Antrim Road area, Lower Antrim Road. Really the area south of the waterworks, bounded by the waterworks in the north, York Street and York Road in the east, the Shankill in the south, Woodville in the west. According to the parish chronicle of St Patrick's, Donegal Street, 130 of the church's parishioners perished in this raid. The mines which fell, and bombs which fell on streets which are now synonymous with the Blitz. Streets like, for example, the area of Atlantic Avenue, Annandale Street, Lincoln Avenue, Burke Street, Trinity Street, Unity Street, Duncairn Gardens, Beer Street, Sussex Street. No street suffered more, however, than Hoover Street. According to the Commonwealth War Graves Commission list of civilian casualties, roughly 80 people were killed in that one street of Hoover Street. The issue is, why was why was North Belfast hit so hard? It's clear from Luftwaffe records that the primary target for the bombers was the docks, the military war diaries, for example, the Belfast area war diary also confirms that was the feeling that was the impression that was the primary target for the Luftwaffe. So the question was really how or why it was that they missed. Popularly held view was that they mistook the waterworks for the docks and bombed the immediately adjacent area, southeast and western. And some officials, well, certainly one official report, which also suggests that was the case, and may well be some truth in that. Though, of course, the waterworks was the Luftwaffe target, as was the Victoria Barracks, which was the centre of the Hill area. In some ways, it's easier to say why they might have missed the docks. And there are several reasons. I mean, one, for example, would be that the weather conditions were not good for bombing. The local meteorological offices indicate that 9/10 cloud cover on the night of these precision raids varied, became slightly more cloudy, as fact as the night we were on. 1/3 of the bombers designated to attack Belfast as their primary target never made it. Diverted to other targets because of poor weather conditions. There was a long delay before the bombing started on Easter Tuesday. The delay was because the bombers were trying to identify their targets below, identify ground features, the heavy use of flares, 300 flares were dropped, to try and illuminate ground feature. Another reason, or at least a complementary reason perhaps, which was favoured by local military and naval service chiefs, was that they were convinced that the smokescreen had been effective, that it successfully obscured the docks. And indeed, its operation was controversial. Some members of the public quoted the diary, John Butler's diary. He commented that these, quoting from his diary, that the evacuees said it was cruel to put up a smokescreen over the airdrome and the docks, as it meant that their houses were bombed. So there was a public perception that the smokescreen had been effective. Also, it has to be borne in mind that bombing techniques were crude. The Luftwaffe records make it clear that the bombs were delivered entirely by sight or by dead reckoning, both of them subject to error in terms of the ability to hit targets. Belfast was too far north for the Luftwaffe, even their elite squadrons, to deploy any system of beam guidance. But they did hit some targets in the docks. And this shows, sorry, the slide showed a corvette at Harden Wolf, which was in ruins. They did succeed in bombing some docks. Was hit. Particularly early in the raid, about 12:35, parachute mines, etc. But the docks was lucky in the sense that, in the first place, large numbers of these bombs failed to explode. There were 10 parachute mines fell in the dock area and failed to explode, fell harmlessly into the mud. Sean O'Sullivan, who was a Southern ARP observer, commented in his report subsequently that an extraordinary aspect of the raid was the high percentage of unexploded bombs, but 80 were reported in the 2 days after the raid. Also, where the fires were started in the dock area, they were quickly extinguished, according to government reports. And successive waves of bombers then dropped their loads where the fires were still lit, where they'd been lit early on and remained lit. In other words, not in the docks, but in the area to the north and west of the docks. But I think there's one piece of evidence which strongly suggests that the bombers did not really mistake the waterworks for the docks. And that's the mission reports and the analysis of the raid produced by the Luftwaffe crews themselves. They reported seeing fires, hearing explosions, seeing the explosions, but they constantly stated that the result of their bombs was not known. They used phrases about the raid that was unsatisfactory, inconclusive, abortive. A report written the 16th of April stated that only a mediocre result could be expected from the raid, that its effect was minimal. This suggests, I think, that the Luftwaffe knew that they had not hit their targets in the docks. In truth, they didn't know what they did. Other areas of Belfast were hit. City centre largely escaped, South Belfast largely escaped. But East Belfast, considerable amount of bomb damage there, were substantial casualties. Something like 80% of the shipyard workers at Harden Wolf lived within a 2-mile radius of the yard. So if any bombs missed the yard, overspilled into suburban or at least to residential areas, it was likely to result in substantial casualties. Some of the worst incidents occurred in West Belfast, Ohio Street, Heather Street. I've shown illustrations here of 2 bombs, sort of the best known incidents from this raid. Wilton's funeral business on the road. William Wilton, the owner of the Wilton's funeral business, wrote a memoir. It was quite a big site, 2 or 3 acres. Buildings were on the perimeter of the site. around the central square. It was his belief that the Luftwaffe had mistaken for an army camp. I think entirely mistaken, but nonetheless that was his belief. The lower photograph shows Percy Street. Bomb had fallen 15 feet from the shelter. The walls gave way, roof collapsed, and 30 of the occupants were killed. This shows the Duke of Gloucester and Duchess of Gloucester visiting the area 22nd of April. They visited most of the bomb sites in Belfast. Their purpose was to boost morale. Afterwards, they confided to the Governor, Lord Abercorn, that they were shocked by the state of Belfast. The turning point of the raid seems to have occurred about sort of 1:45. Fires at that stage, according to government reports and military reports, got out of control, raised out of control, and subsequently help was sought from outside Belfast. Help was sought, for example, from other civil defence regions in Northern Ireland, from Britain, and at 4:35 from Eire, which is the Dundalk Fire Brigade occurrence book, and it contains a description of their coming up to Belfast. How they had been phoned by Dublin to ask them to go up, and Taoiseach had agreed to the proposal that they go up, and in total something like 13 fire engines and 70 firemen went from Eire to the north.